Good morning, Jefferson City. Welcome back to the NT Daily for Monday, June 22nd. Today, we are starting with artificial intelligence and data centers. Yes, no, sorry. This is not an episode of The Twilight Zone. It is just 2026. We'll talk about Governor Mike Kehoe's statewide AI forum in Rolla, what he said about data centers and electric rates, what protections state officials say are in place when some of these big data projects are being discussed in mid-Missouri. Then we'll hit a few more local stories and talk the U.S. men's soccer team suddenly giving people expectations, which I am not emotionally prepared for. So, reminder that absentee voting for the August 4th primary begins tomorrow. Perfectly normal Monday. Our lead story today comes from News Tribune reporter Matthew McFarland, who has been covering the statewide Artificial Intelligence and Data Centers Forum at Missouri S&T in Rolla. The big message from state officials and industry leaders was basically this: AI and data centers are here. They are certainly showing up in our daily newscast, and they are not going away. That also seems to be true for us. Missouri needs to figure out how to manage them, regulate them, and if state leaders get their way, benefit from them. That seems fairly straightforward and common sense government, until you get into the details, I guess. But if you were with us last Thursday, you may have remembered that we talked about the Kehoe County Data Center meeting where Western District Commissioner Christopher Scott said he did not trust the company either, because his job is not to trust them, it is to get the best deal he can for the county. And at the time I said, well, that is not a sentence I expected to hear. Not the kind of radical honesty you normally hear from a government official, but I appreciated it. Well, to kick things off Thursday morning at the statewide AI forum in Rolla, Governor Mike Kehoe basically said, hold my beer, talking about the Google and Amazon data center campuses planned for New Florence in Montgomery County. Kehoe said someone came up to him after the Montgomery County event and said, I'm afraid my rates are going to go up. And Kehoe's response was, quote, your rates are going to go up whether we have a data center, a General Motors, a widget manufacturer, or anything. It's supply and demand, end quote. And listen, hey, the era of radical honesty from government officials might be here. I would rather someone say the direct thing out loud than wrap it up in 14 layers of government bubble wrap. Nobody wants to hear that rates are going up, but it is useful to know what state leaders believe is driving those costs and how they think Missouri should respond. Kehoe and other officials pointed to Missouri's Senate Bill 4, the utility regulation law passed in 2025, as the state's consumer protection framework for these large load customers. Here's what that means. A big box store, a normal big box store, might use about 1 megawatt of power. A big manufacturer might use 10, 20, or 30 megawatts. Some large data centers around the country can use more than 1,000 megawatts under Senate Bill 4 and the Public Service Commission's large load tariff. Very large power users, those requiring 75 megawatts or more, are supposed to pay for the energy they use and the infrastructure needed to serve them. Supporters of the law say that protects regular residential customers from being stuck with the bill for these massive projects. Kehoe said, Missouri does not have to choose between economic growth and common sense, but there's an important caveat. Senate Bill 4 does not stop utilities from spreading out the cost of new power generation facilities across customers. So if a utility builds new generation that becomes part of the overall system, that cost can still eventually show up in the broader rate picture. Google and Amazon have announced plans for major data center campuses in New Florence. In Montgomery County, Google's project has been described as a $15 billion development, Amazon's as a $10 billion development. Then in northern Kehoe County, residents have been discussing a proposed 800,000 square foot data center from Crusoe, a Denver-based AI company. The Kehoe County conversation has included concerns about water use, energy, groundwater, land use, waste, tax abatements, and what authority local officials actually have, especially in areas without planning and zoning. At the Rolla Forum, officials and panelists pushed back on some of the biggest fears around data centers. On water use, several panelists said some concerns may be overblown because many newer Data centers use closed-loop cooling systems, air cooling methods that do not rely on constant water use the way people might be thinking. There is still local tension here that remains. Even if the technology is getting better, residents still want specifics. They want to know what is being built, where it is going, how much power it needs, how it is regulated, what happens if the company leaves, and whether anyone at the local level can say no, slow down, or at least please explain this in a way that does not sound like a utility law final exams. Honestly, these are all fair questions. So, at the end of the day, Kehoe framed the issue as one of opportunity and responsibility. He said Missouri should use AI responsibly in state government, improve efficiency for Missourians interacting with public services, and make sure technology serves people, not the other way around. That is really the right test. The test is whether this actually serves people. Does it create jobs? Does it protect ratepayers? Does it protect water and land? Does it help workers adapt? Does it give communities real information before those decisions are made? Obviously, we will continue to keep watching this because it keeps showing up in the news. Before we move into the workforce side of this issue, today's NT Daily is brought to you by MU Healthcare. MU Healthcare's front door is never too far away from yours. With more than 80 locations across mid-Missouri and expert hospital care in Jefferson City and Columbia, MU Healthcare is committed to ensuring every Missourian has access to the region's most advanced diagnostic and treatment options. MU Healthcare, expert care close to you. Now, staying with AI, I know. But Matt McFarland also covered a workforce development panel where the main point was pretty clear. Colleges and the state cannot just fight AI or pretend students are not already using it. Hal Higdon, Chancellor of Ozarks Technical Community College, said, "You are not going to stop AI any more than you could stop fire, the wheel, or the Industrial Revolution." Which sounds dramatic, yes, but is also probably true. Although I would personally like to stop whatever technology keeps showing me household organizing influencers putting fruit in like tiny acrylic bins and making me feel like I have failed as a mother because my refrigerator still includes half applesauce pouches and other things that I'm afraid to identify. So the real issue here is how Missouri prepares people for jobs that are already changing. Bennett Boggs, the state's higher education commissioner, said Missouri institutions already have more than 300 AI-related programs with more than 15,000 students enrolled. He also said about half of Missouri job postings requiring AI skills are not in tech or data engineering fields. This is not just coders and hoodies conversations. AI skills are showing up in all kinds of work throughout the workforce. Panelists talk about retraining workers, making sure rural Missouri is not left behind, and that may be one of the biggest takeaways if data centers are being built in places like New Florence and discussed in counties like Kehoe, then workforce training and community planning have to reach rural Missouri too. I did not see it mentioned whether professors are using AI to write their syllabi, but I assume someone has already asked ChatGPT to make an 8 a.m. class sound exciting. So, before we move on, today's NT Daily is also brought to you by our friends at Hen House, your local market right here in Jefferson City. Hen House has you covered as we head toward the 4th of July. If you need to get some practice in on your barbecue, this week is the week. They have fresh cut meats, produce, deli, and bakery specials at the Jefferson City location, including whole pork butts, fresh cut pork steaks, pork shoulder country style ribs, frozen chicken wings, fresh brats and beer brats, pork loin baby back ribs. On the produce side, they have sweet yellow onions, seedless watermelons, hothouse tomatoes, nectarines, peaches, and russet potatoes. And in the bakery, which is where my discipline is always tested, they have cinnamon rolls, garlic bread, King's Hawaiian sweet rolls, vanilla cream, horns, and oatmeal raisin cookies. Plus, their soup and salad bar is open Monday through Friday, and you can find deli favorites there. So go see our friends at Hen House at 1904 Southwest Boulevard in Jefferson City. few quick hits before we go. Over the weekend, the Missouri Department of Conservation announced it is planning to lay off more than 100 employees. The department announced it will cut 106 jobs before March 2027. Deputy Director Aaron Jeffries said the decision follows other cost-cutting measures and comes in response to rising costs. MDC is in a different position than many state agencies because it does not depend on general revenue funding. It relies heavily on the conservation sales tax, along with federal reimbursements and hunting and fishing permit sales. Here is the challenge. Sales tax growth has not kept up with inflation, and permit sales have stagnated as the share of Missourians who hunt and fish has declined. So what does this mean in Jefferson City? State government jobs are a big part of our workforce here, and MDC is headquartered here. So put simply, MDC's costs are up, its revenue options are limited, and now jobs are being cut. It is not just people. The department also said it is reducing some cooperative agreements, sold some small conservation areas with minimal public use, reduced cost share programs, and cut back on land acquisition. Before we close out today, we have to talk about the U.S. men's national soccer team, who is apparently doing very well in the World Cup, which is exciting, surprising, and also very confusing for those of us who still need soccer explained like we are going to kindergarten. The U.S. has won consecutive World Cup matches for the first time since 1930. They have already won their group and booked a place in the knockout round, with a final group stage match against Turkey coming up in Los Angeles. The team has been scoring, the crowds have been loud, expectations are rising fast. I support winning, and I support any sport where people run that much and still seem to know where they're supposed to be. But I am once again asking someone to explain soccer to me. Why is this team good now? What is offsides? Why does the clock count up? And for the love of everything, what is happening with stoppage time? If referees came to my house and just kept adding time to the clock, my kids would never go to bed. They'd be like, sorry, Mom, we're in stoppage time. The official has added 6 minutes because someone dramatically fell off the couch. So if you understand soccer, please write into our local opinion pages. I've been telling you, we need more content. I need someone to explain why the U.S. is good, what I should be watching, whether I'm allowed to get emotionally attached at this point. And so we may have to have the sports writers back in here to explain the soccer craze. One final reminder before we go. Absentee voting for the August 4th primary election begins tomorrow. Cole County voters who want to request an absentee ballot can do so through the Cole County Clerk's Office website or by calling the Clerk's Office. Absentee voting runs through August 3rd, and ballots must be returned by 7 p.m. on Election Day to be counted. The Clerk's Office will stop mailing absentee ballots on July 22nd. Voters have until July 8th to register to vote. No excuse absentee voting begins July 21st and runs through August 3rd. And yes, this is a packed ballot. Cole County voters will see contested Republican primaries, along with statewide constitutional amendments and Jefferson City's municipal half-cent capital improvement sales tax extension. So if you are voting absentee, now is the time to make a plan. Do not wait until the last minute and then act surprised that democracy has paperwork. Democracy has always had paperwork. That is one of its many personality traits. That is it for today's NT Daily. As always, you can reach us at ntdaily@newstribune.com. And if you can explain offsides in a way that does not make me regret asking, please consider this your personal invitation to write in. Have a great Monday, Jefferson City, and we will see you tomorrow.